Okay, welcome back to another video. This one is a little bit different than normal. Today we're going to be reading the very first thing of alternate history I ever wrote or made, I think. Probably not. I've always really loved, alternate history. I used to draw, alternate World War I treaties on my driveway with chalk when I was, 7. But anyway, this is The Egyptian Curse of the Great Sphinx, which I wrote when I was, 8, I think. It was in 2nd grade. So it's 7 or 8, probably. So it's gonna be really, really bad. I faintly remember this. I remember it starts out as being, just a weird story about ancient Egypt, and then it randomly becomes alternate history, and then it just randomly starts becoming sci-fi at the end. It's not extremely long. It's this long, so yeah. We're just gonna start reading The Egyptian Curse of the Great Sphinx by 2nd grade me. Long ago in ancient Egypt, 4,000 years ago, bandits destroyed the Great Sphinx's nose. The Great Sphinx was not amused with these dirty and filthy peasants. I don't know why I was being so angry towards them. How dare they attack the Sphinx? So it set a curse upon them. I don't think that's grammatically correct. Why is there no spaces after periods? 1 hour later, the bandits suddenly died. Now the Great Sphinx was appeased. Almost. Ooh. Another hour later, the bandits' remains suddenly disappeared. Okay. Much later, their remains were found wrapped up in a tomb thrown by an unknown person, suspected to be the Great Sphinx, in the Nile River. No capitalization and no commas. Ooh boy. Well, other than that, start sentences, no capitalization. After this little incident, nobody has ever messed with the Great Sphinx again, is what the Great Sphinx thought. Yeah, that's so cool. It's so tough. For you see, comma, except there's no comma, the bandits' ghosts, with an army that they got somehow. I don't know why random bandits just, got an army of people. The ghosts of random bandits got an army somehow. Declared war upon all living Egyptians and the Great Sphinx. Everybody across the globe was shocked, and the Sphinx was confused and terrified. Okay? After release, this is still ancient Egypt. How does the whole world know about this? Technology and information spread very slowly. But anyway, after releasing this, the pharaoh fought hard against the ghost army, but soon the pyramids were annihilated and the Great Sphinx was breaking down. Does he just, start breaking down when his country starts falling, or can the ghosts just can't attack him directly? I don't know. Soon after, they surrendered, but over 300,000 Egyptians had passed in the war, and the pharaoh was executed, leaving the ghosts in charge. The Egyptians wanted revenge, which triggered a revolution. Months later, the war was over in the rebels' favor. Now, with an improved military, they declared war. Okay. Then, halfway through, the Sphinx broke a promise and went into physical form. What promise did he break? I don't think you can just establish that. He just had this promise or something, and he can just go into a physical form. Sure. The ghosts were defeated after 30 years of battling. So, how did the rebels even do that? They just won this time, even though they got destroyed the first time? Just in a couple months, they did a rebellion, and then they won easily? Okay. I guess 30 years battling, so it wasn't easy, but still. Oh well. And then with the power of the Sphinx's physical form, the newly formed Greater Egyptian Empire conquered all of the continent of Africa. So this is when it gets alternate history. So Egypt, just with the Great Sphinx as a person, as their leader, manages to conquer all of Africa. They went to Arabia and conquered it. Not even consistent with misspelling words. I use an O this time and an E this time. And they conquered it, taking out the Babylonians, Turks, Greeks, and Persians in the process. Adding more to their power, they made alliance with the Mongols. So we just went from ancient Egypt to the 1200s somehow. The ghosts were enraged. The ghosts are dead, I thought. Well, they're already dead because they're ghosts. I thought they were double dead. Why are they back? The ghosts were enraged. The ghost's ability to come back to life were lost because of the Great Egyptian's Ghost War. Okay, well, I guess I just explained it there. Whatever. Back in Egypt, the Sphinx's physical form was unstoppable. The Egyptians treated him like royalty. I think he is royalty because he's leading the country, which is a kingdom, so that makes him a king. And the pharaoh treated him like another ruler. But did I not just establish that he's leading the country already? Whatever. Eventually, the Sphinx got tired and went back to a statue. So I guess whatever promise he broke, there was just no repercussions for breaking it. Okay. The Egyptian Empire was a world power, and everybody but the Mongols were frightened. I don't know why I decided to love the Mongols as well. The pyramids were repaired. They became so strong that they escaped colonization by the British Empire. So they managed to hold all of Africa and like most of the Middle East, and even beyond that, for like, if this was ancient Egypt, it was like 4,000, well, maybe like 3,000 years ago. Colonization by the British Empire was like a couple hundred years ago. So they just controlled all these people for like thousands of years. But they became so strong they escaped colonization by the British Empire. Period. I think I meant to put a comma. Fought in both World War One and World War Two. Why are these highlighted in red? Not highlighted. The text is red. Why? And were a massive help to the Allies and Entente. So I guess history just happened to play out the exact same, even though there's a giant Egyptian empire here. In 2009, why did I spell it out? Like the year 2009, but I spelled it out for some reason. They joined the alliance of NATO. I guess, sure. They also remained a world superpower from way back then. Ever since 2000 BC, the Great Egyptian Empire remained one of, if not the, most powerful nations on Earth. Their land border stretched from modern-day Pakistan in the east, Gambia in the west, South Africa in the south, Bulgaria in the north, and not to mention tiny islands, disputed territories, and colonies. They still have colonies, even though this is modern time now, or 2009, I guess. It has the second biggest military, just below the United States of America, and coming far above the Russian Federation. I could have just said Russia, but I had to say Russian Federation. I spelled out 2009. Like, why am I trying so hard? And I'm still not capitalizing. Making it an extreme power foe to mess with. What am I... For you to mess with? I don't know what I'm trying to say. So the point is, the Greater Egyptian Empire is a very powerful empire, and the only empire that exists today. I think we got that already. It has existed for 4,000 years. But then a rebellion came, known as the South African War for Independence. The rebellion had nukes, but they never used them. Why did I even mention that then? So after 2.7 years of fighting, the rebellion was put down. I could just, 2 years and what would that be? Like, the equivalent of, 9 months? 8 months? Why did I say 2.7 years? After 2.7 years of fighting, the rebellion was put down. But Egypt has been greatly weakened after the war, and Russia declared war. Sure. Which NATO and Russia's allies to fight along... What? Many more countries starting World War III. Okay. North Korea was killed... Wait, so whose side is Egypt on? Which NATO and Russia's allies... So, oh yeah, because Egypt is in NATO. So it's Russia and their allies versus NATO and Egypt, obviously. Starting World War III. Again, why is it red? North Korea was killed instantly. It makes it sound like North Korea is just one dude who gets shot or something. But China and Russia were a different story. That would make sense. By that, they capitulated from getting attacked from all sides and getting St. Petersburg, Moscow, Beijing, and Shanghai nuked. The peace deal gave the Great Egyptian Empire land in North Korea and China, and they got $400 billion USD. Sure. After World War III ended, finally capitalizing, this time it's not in red, ended, the Great Egyptian Empire, I only capitalized the, sure, T in the, had the second biggest economy and military, both by the United States of America. I think they already did. I think this is where it ended originally, because I made a couple additions to it afterwards. So, I think this is where it first ended. But anyway, after this, it was the Great Sphinx's, birthday. Look at this, I'm so funny. You see, it's like the funny numbers. You see? Why... Why do they want to celebrate this birthday so bad? Why is there a W in there? Why is there's two E's as well? Sure. So they celebrated, or no, sorry, they celebrated by landing a man on the Ares dwarf planet, Dwarf planet. Why'd I put Ares in all caps? When they did it, the closest any other place had gotten to Ares was the planet Mars, achieved by the United States of America. I could have just, I also, why do I keep spelling this out? I could just say USA. But the Sphinx was flying in human form, did not get to get the man to Ares. To Ares! So do not mess with the Great Sphinx, the most powerful being in this many closest omniverses. Sure. Well, so do not mess with them. I know you were planning on it, so, stop. So when the largest empire in history, the Great Egyptian Empire, joined forces with Austria to reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire by Hungary annihilating Romania, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ukraine, and Poland. What? Then Austria killed the rest of the territories. Why do I keep saying killed? They just are shooting the land or something. The same thing with Japan to the Japanese Empire, Turkey to the Ottoman Empire, Lithuania to Lithuania, Mongolia to the Mongol Empire, Sweden to the Swedish Empire, and Germany to the German Empire. Why? What is the point of this? Then they formed a new alliance called the New Western Empires. I don't know what the point of it. How are they Western? They're in Egypt. Why? So they're just betraying NATO to go ahead and make their own fan. I think it's just because I was a weird little history kid and I wanted all my favorite characters, which are the empires, to come back and be a team together. But anyway, years then passed when suddenly the Egyptian Empire and its allies expanded. So they controlled a lot of territorial, which gave them power. Then humanity was so advanced, every region of a country owned an entire galaxy. Now it was time for the ultimate war, which of course shall be, a lot of dots, World War IV. Again in red. And this time I don't spell it out, this time I actually make an acronym, but still red. The countries involved in this war were the Great Egyptian Empire, the USA, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Mongol Empire, the Swedish Empire, Lithuania, the Ottoman Empire, the Japanese Empire, Britain, the rest of NATO, France, and the German Empire on one side. I thought they betrayed NATO, but okay, I guess NATO just didn't mind them bringing back all these old empires. In the and Russia, China, and North Korea, I thought they owned North Korea. Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Italy on the other. Why is Italy on the other side? Also, this is extremely one-sided. Nuclear bomb versus coughing baby. Rome was quickly seized and Italy capitulated, and the same events happened with Belarus. Kazakhstan stole nuclear bombs from Russia, but they failed and blew up Kazakhstan's capital, which made Kazakhstan capitulate. So, what? So, aren't Kazakhstan and Russia on the same side? Kazakhstan stole nuclear... Why are they stealing bombs from their own ally, who they're currently fighting a war on the same side as? What are they doing? And also, so they they send these spies to take, some of the most valuable things imaginable, which are nuclear bombs. Well, valuable to, warfare. They somehow mess up so badly that they just, accidentally detonate them in their own capital. Why do they even have them in their own capital when not just, a random field? How do you just, accidentally set off a nuclear bomb in your own city? These guys are really stupid. Russia and China had to get revenge. Again, it's sounding like the countries are literally, people. I think that's what this whole thing is. It's just, me being obsessed with history and pretending that empires are, people and characters. So they attempted to nuke the Great Egyptian Empire, which failed and hit the Indian Ocean. Even so, they missed the Great Egyptian Empire. Yeah, I just said that. Was furious and blew the other countries. They were fighting against tiny little bloody shreds of skin, organs, and bones. Sure, man. Whatever you say. The Great World War IV, in red again, that 370 million fell to, was finally over. In the peace treaty, the Great Egyptian Empire gained Sicily, all of North Korea, land in China and Russia, and $200 billion USD. But after World War IV, life in the Great Egyptian Empire was extremely rough. The country was poverty-struck, even though they just got $200 billion, but okay. And life felt like it was at the ages of the pyramids of Giza being built, even though it was at its all-time most Even though it is all the time most advanced it had been in all its history, and the murder rate was growing very quickly. Okay, so I just punched my computer, and then I got an ad. How did I even get an ad for Zootopia 2? I don't know if you heard that, but I punched my computer on accident and then gave me an ad for Zootopia 2, even though I don't have anything open that could play an ad. So I don't even know how that happened. If you want to hear an ad for Zootopia 2, then punch your computer, I guess. So yeah, but anyway, regardless, so Egypt just won this big world war pretty easily, I guess. Also, I like how they were only made mad by the attempt to get by how Russia tried to nuke them, and not by the fact that Russia was already invading them. So even though they just won this war, and I guess maybe like most of these people are Egyptian, I don't know, but they're very not doing well anymore. So for some reason, the Great Revolution of 2034 was going to begin, which was the hardest time of all of Egypt's. What were the world wars then? Because World War Three was before, was after 2007. So we had two world wars between 2009 and 2000 whatever 34, which was the hardest time of all of Egypt's history, from Upper and Lower Egypt to the Cleopatra to the wars happening now. The Egyptians were annihilated. No, Egyptians were annihilated. All caps and red and italic and yeah. What even happened? So, like, they just died for no reason, I guess. Like, they were unstable, sure, but like, there's no even like specific event. They just like crumble out of nowhere. Like, what annihilates them? They had internal issues, but like, it doesn't say that there was a rebellion or that they got invaded. They just got annihilated. Okay. The rest of the world were annihilated later, but then it collapsed. What? So it was annihilated and then it collapsed. Sure. The world was sent back to its borders before the rebellion. Egypt quickly invaded, united, and bought the eastern hemisphere, and the rest was split between the USA, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. Okay, I guess. And even though they just got annihilated, quote unquote, they now just like control the entire eastern hemisphere. Eastern hemisphere, to be specific, really. Years later, the Egyptian Empire had rebellions and only held on to northern Africa. Then South Africa came along and fought the Egyptians. It was definitely close, but Egypt won. Now, Egypt controlled the majority of Africa besides the southern tip. Okay, now this part I remember. So remember how I said I was going to go sci-fi randomly? So this is where everything ended, which was a pretty lackluster ending. Like they just control land now, but not as much as before, but still a lot. I don't know, it's a stupid ending. But then I had like this other school project where I had to write like a story, and so then I just decided to copy, after that project was over, just in my free time, I then decided to copy and paste it into this story and tie it together at the very end. So yeah. There was also once a small clover on a distant planet. You might think this plant had 2, 3, or maybe even 4 leaves, but no. It had about 30 leaves and gives an infinite amount of luck to whoever was holding it. There's only one of these in the entire universe. One day, thousands of years from now, in a very futuristic place, in 8492, a mission to the edge of the universe, 492, because, like, that's 7,000 years after Columbus, maybe. Let's plan to happen tomorrow, with 3 astronauts, a robot with a camera. This was the fastest and nicest spaceship ever created, even faster than the speed of light, somehow. I guess it's like 7,000 years in the future, so I guess maybe. But it still took around 7 months to get as far as it could, and they had to enter the backup ship, which was much, much smaller, but that meant it would need barely any fuel to go trillions of miles. This went on a little over 18 times faster than the main rocket to space's ship, much faster than light. And then it went for about 9 months, and they finally reached their destination, the universe's edge. It looked like a big, impossible glass wall that looked into abyss with a few dots, other universes. So yeah, we're completely abandoning the whole Egypt thing, I guess. The astronauts quickly wrote it down, and the robot saved it. Okay? But then an asteroid struck and destroyed the ship. They were stranded. The robot sent a message back, but it would take more than a whole year to reach Earth. They luckily landed on a somewhat habitable and luscious planet, where they found the mysterious clover from the start. They thought it must have been some strange plant on this planet. They thought nothing of it. I mean, it is a strange plant on this planet. Sure, they don't know it provides you with infinite luck, but like, that still, it still makes it a strange plant on this planet. So, oh well. A few days after the crash, they went back to it as their last chance of any hope at survival. One of the astronauts picked up, and in less than a blink of an eye, pieces to a rocket started falling down in just the right place to form it. So, yeah, now they have, like, infinite luck or whatever. Well, so they thought nothing of it, but then one of them just decides to pick it up. Because you all know that picking up a clover will help you survive space. I don't know what, I mean, it did, but like, how did they know that? In just a minute or two, it formed the most powerful rocket ship imaginable. Hundreds of times the speed of light, infinite fuel, and strong enough to get through the universe's edge and into other universes. Most of all, it was the size of a very large modern mansion. They climbed aboard and went back to the Earth in just a day. If it's hundreds of times the speed of light, and they're at the universe's edge, that would still take, like, probably, like, trillions of years. But, oh well. I guess, even though I also really liked space as a little wee brightyling, I guess I still also didn't know how big it was. Um, the, they climbed aboard and then went back to Earth in just a day, somehow. And then the astronauts shared the stories on the camera, which took hundreds of pictures a millisecond. Why? What's even the point of that? Why would you need to take hundreds of pictures a millisecond? I don't see how that would be useful. It had infinite storage, and a robot's very large storage. It has infinite storage, but it also has the robot storage, even though it has infinite storage, so it wouldn't need any extra storage, because it has storage. The astronauts showed the plan to the president, and he showed it to human civilization's most skilled and smart scientists. They extracted the very luck out of it and put it in a clone machine. But something went wrong, and the clone machine started to get bigger, and the door almost popped off from the machine. All but one scientist evacuated from the lab, and the remaining scientists got trapped because the door got jammed, and the cloning machine burst open with pure luck. Eventually, it was all contained, but the remaining scientist accidentally drank. How do you accidentally drink this? I could have just said, like, it exploded and all got over him, but instead I have to say, like, just for some reason I decided to say that it got contained somehow, but then he accidentally drank some of it. Like, it's so much more complicated than it needed to be. He accidentally drank about 180 30 leaves clovers worth of luck. Nobody knew what would happen to him since he went unconscious. He woke up, but something strange happened to his body. He was incredibly large, he got fat, and could fly. Then he realized that had turned into an all-powerful god. He then used his power to help humanity so much by making them, why is that in all caps, all gods, and they never had to worry about any problems ever again. Well, besides for the threat of the scientists removing the powers, but he never did. Okay. After the extremely successful mission, Egypt colonized hundreds of thousands of universes, fully advancing Earth to a Type 7 civilization. The end. We have like just one little sentence here, just to tie it back to Egypt. So I guess this was like the Egyptian scientists and the Egyptian astronauts and the Egyptian president. I don't know how else it would be related. But yeah, that sure was the greatest thing I've ever read. You know, we need to make this a movie. Maybe I could make like a mapping video, just like to show this somehow. It's so stupid, but it's kind of fun. I like how the Sphinx also just randomly got irrelevant. Like, sure, it was pretty much about the Sphinx at first. Like, he was the main character, but then just became about Egypt in general. So, yeah. But yeah, it had like it literally just like kept jumping to new plot lines that had nothing to do with the old ones. But oh well. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this righty original 8-year-old me. I think 7 or 8, because 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, I was 8 when I made this. Just recently turned 8. Okay. Goodbye.